Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I've been to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time and just scraped all the questions off the first couple pages. I'm going to answer them now, mixed in with some questions from the Discord server as well, while some footage from Overwatch plays in the background. These were games I played earlier today on stream, so yes, this is me playing the game right now. How exciting, I know. So, first off, over in the Discord, we've got, how would you buff Sigma? I personally make his barrier have more health but recharge slower, not have a cooldown, and have Grasp recharge it in a burst. I'd also revert all the rock changes, including the damage, and make the only way to cancel Flux, killing Sigma. So, I'd revert the rock changes as well. I think the rock changes were overkill. Remove the delay on repositioning the shield. I think that's completely worthless to have that. There's just a second delay before you can reposition it. I don't like that. Get rid of that. I'm in two minds about his damage. I think his damage should be increased slightly, but I don't think it should be fully reverted back to what it was. But it should be higher than it is presently. I find Sigma to be a very toothless tank a lot of the time. Like, there's not much reason to be afraid of him. And I'd have it so that you could cancel Kinetic Grasp early, outside of using the rock. So I do mean push Kinetic Grasp a second time, and it cancels it, and however much damage you've absorbed at that point is converted into the shield. As opposed to now, where if you cancel it with the rock, you don't get the shield. So have a way to cancel Grasp early, but retain the charge that you already got out of it. I don't know about the ult. Like, the ult... the ult was, like, the real, like, overkill thing for me, where I was like, alright, like, you guys are really just, like, going ham on fucking up Sigma right now, aren't you? But, like, I kind of don't care, really. I think I would change it so that you could I would probably do the same thing, but I also kind of don't actually care either if they don't change it back. I would, given the choice, but I also don't feel like the ult cancelling thing is a massive deal a lot of the time. Sure, it does matter, but, like, I don't think it's a huge deal, so, like, I could take it or leave it as far as the ult goes. Yeah, that's what I'd do. And the rock and the shield, I wouldn't even really, like, change the shield health or recharge rate. I just think that if you take off the delay on repositioning, that's enough, to be honest. Ideal world, I'd probably give it, like, a little more health. Maybe only, like, 200 health. Something like that. But I think just the shield repositioning would be good enough at the same time. But that's what I'd do for Sigma. So, now, next up. When you're playing Lucio, how should you approach using his ult? For example, let's say they have Nano Blade and Grav. How do you decide which one to beat and which ult you'll have to deal with without beat? So, in an ideal world, you'd get to use it on the ult that is scarier, which is, of course, Nano Blade. Some people would debate me on this one as to whether Grav or Nano Blade is scarier, but the answer is that Nano Blade is scarier, and you're wrong if you think otherwise. I'm sorry. So, in an ideal world, you'd use it for the scarier ultimate, but the thing is, you're not always given a choice in the matter. Because you say in this kind of, like, you'd say in that situation, I want to use it on Nano Blade, preferably. But, simultaneously, if you're in a position where you're like, hey, this Grav might kill my team, then you don't really get a choice in the matter. You still just kind of have to use the sound barrier on that ultimate, even though you're less scared of it than the other ultimate. Because if you die, like, you want to avoid dying at the end of the day, right? So, like, if you're in a position where you think the less scary ult is going to wipe your team, you should still use Sound Barrier, even though you want to use it for the other one. It's not, like, a great answer to hear, which is that basically, like, sometimes you're just going to get fucked. But sometimes you're just going to get fucked, brother. And, yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. It's not a great answer to hear, but the answer is, hey, you know, you decide you want to use it with that one, and you try to if you can, but if you're gonna die, you don't want to die, right? You don't want to die. I don't want to die. So you got to use on the less scary ultimate, and then just kind of hope you can deal with the second one after that. Yeah, that's about it, basically. Sorry, you know, it's not a great answer, but it's kind of all you can do. You can only ever, like, this is the thing, you can only ever really make a decision based off of, like, what's happening at the time, right? You know, like, well, right now, my team looks like they're gonna die, and I'm trying to prevent that, so I have to use my ultimate. If your team, like, and if you think, you know, if you're in a position where you're like, the grav, you know, it's kind of scary right now, but I don't think it's actually going to kill anybody, or it's like, it doesn't look like it's going to be absolutely disastrous, right? Then hold it and try and use it for the next one instead if you think you can get away with it, right? But if you think you're going to die, just use it on the less scary ultimate. There you go. That was also very terrible, by the way. Did you like how I crashed into the bus and then just, like, kept going for a little while into the enemy team? That was very fun. I enjoyed that a lot. So, next up. Shatter had its knockdown time reduced from 3 seconds to 2.25 seconds. Should a Ryan player try to play differently knowing this? How? It doesn't, like, it does affect it. Like, it's a very noticeable difference, right? It almost had its duration reduced by 33%, right? Like, it had its time reduced by a significant degree. But there's not really anything different in how you use the ultimate, like, because you still use it in the same circumstances. Nothing about the actual use case of the ult has really changed. It's just now you're going to be in situations where you're like, I would have killed that guy pre-nerf, and I didn't kill that guy post-nerf. You might consider not, like, trying to use it from a closer position than you would previously. But in my experience, this is not something you typically really worry about too much, because usually when you're using Earth Shatter, you're pretty close to them. And if you're not pretty close to them, it's because you're expecting something else to happen, right? Like, your team are in a good position to capitalize in general, so you not being able to close the distance as quickly isn't a huge deal. Or you're just close enough to do something, right? Like, you know, it doesn't really affect how you use the ultimate that much, but it is going to lead to situations where you're like, I would have killed that guy pre-nerf, and I did not kill him post-nerf. You know? Not a great answer either, but I mean, it's still Earth Shatter, you know, you're still using it for the same shit, it's just now you're gonna, like, beat 2 people to death instead of 3 people. And it's like, it's the kind of thing you're gonna notice a lot if you played Reinhardt previously. Like, it is a very noticeable difference in how quickly people get up. This is one of those things where I feel like your perception of it if you don't play Reinhardt probably remains largely the same. Because getting Earth Shattered is an extremely different experience to using Earth Shatter. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like most people who don't play Reinhardt are just gonna be like, yeah, I got Earth Shattered, and then I got collapsed and died, right? Or, oh shit, I got away with it, hooray. Which, that experience hasn't changed for them, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people who don't play Reinhardt don't know that this change actually happened. But if you play Reinhardt, it's a really noticeable difference, but, you know, it's not something that massively affects how you use it, except maybe considering, like, being closer than previously, but I don't find that to be a massive consideration when using Earth Shatter. Personally, anyway, your mileage might vary. So, yeah, no adaptation necessary, just sometimes you're gonna be sad. Yeah. And then, last question from the Discord, what do you think of this changes this patch? So we'll briefly go over the patch, this patch as well, for context, shall we? So they added more stuff to the voice wheel, or the communications wheel, which is great, you know, fantastic. You know, that's not a change that anybody should ever be complaining about. More stuff on the communication wheel is always going to be better rather than worse. You have to, like, set it, you know, which I keep forgetting to do, but it's just, like, an objectively good change to have more stuff on the wheel. And I got her healing reduced from 75 to 70. You'll not notice the difference. Some of these changes I really, like, I don't play the hero enough to truly appreciate whether or not this makes a massive difference or not, because it seems like something that is so specific that you'd need to play the hero to know. Because, like, Ashe got a change that reads, secondary fire now reaches max zoom halfway through Ashe's aim down sights instead of at its conclusion. I don't know if that's a big difference or not. I feel like it probably is, but I don't actually know. I would need to be better at Ashe to be able to tell you what that change functionally means. There's one for D.Va like that as well. So I don't know. Like, that sounds like it's probably good, but I don't know. If you play Ashe, you know, please tell me. I'd love to know if that actually makes a big difference. Bastion, they changed the configuration Sentry so that basically the spread is less severe, and his resource drains faster, but he also heals faster. I feel like this probably doesn't make it... That was incredibly greedy, holy shit. I feel like that probably doesn't make much difference, except it makes Bastion a little harder to kill when he's running away, and, like, the spread one, it probably doesn't make a massive difference. I'm sure Bastion that's probably a change where Bastion players definitely notice the difference, but I don't notice. I don't know. It sounds like it doesn't sound like it is that impactful. This is D.Va's restored functionality, allowing D.Va to maintain her current aim pitch when demeching. I have no idea. I have, like, no way to even conceptualize that change, like, how that change affects D.Va. If you play D.Va, please let me know if that makes a big difference, because that sounds entirely inconsequential, but I don't know. Doomfist Seismic Slam can now hold down the ability 2 button to use Seismic Slam as soon as able and valid. So this is, like, makes it more consistent with other abilities, because you can do that with a lot of stuff. So, like, that's just good because I like rules to be consistent, so that's just more consistent functionality. When landing very close or on top of enemies, the enemy will now be pushed in front / away from Doomfist slightly instead of sometimes ending up beside or behind him. I don't know. Aerial Seismic Slam no longer has a slight acceleration time, which should make it arrive at the destination more reliably. I have no idea how this affects Doomfist. I like that it operates more consistently with holding down the button for when it becomes available, because I like the rules to be consistent. But I don't know about the other stuff. It's one of those things I don't play Doomfist enough to know how much of a big deal that makes. Echo, reduce the height of Echo's head hit volume. I don't play Echo, and I don't play enough heroes to know if Echo was, like, really easy to headshot compared to other people. If they changed this, I feel like it has to have been pretty egregious, because this is not a change you see pop up very frequently, even for characters where their head hitbox is extremely egregious, like D.Va. So I feel like it has to have been pretty bad, but again, I don't know. The Junkrat, I've heard a lot of people say that this Junkrat change is pretty sick. So primary fire, projectiles maintain slightly more velocity on ricochet. Concussive mine, projectile speed increased by 5 from 20 to 25. Ricochet distance off enemy players greatly reduced. Total mayhem, bombs detonation time reduced, and bomb spread increased by 50%. I have seen a lot of Junkrat players say, like, in-game, yo, Junkrat changes are sick. So apparently this is a really good change. Again, this is one of those changes where, like, and it's in such nebulous terms, they maintain their ricochet better off, they maintain their velocity off ricochet better. It gives no further context, so if you didn't play Junkrat before and after the patch, you'd never know, right? But I've seen a lot of Junkrat players saying that's good. Mei, Cryo Freeze now behaves like Mei's wall, so it blocks line of sight. Again, I like that because it just makes it more consistent. I feel like it should have always done that, so I'm glad that it does. Mercy primary fire healing per second increased from 50 to 55. You'll never notice the difference. This Moira change, I can tell you, is actually pretty terrible. Biotic Orb, damage radius reduced from 5 meters to 4 meters. Bearing in mind that's in a sphere. So, you know, it ends up being slightly more than it sounds like because of mathematics. Projectile speed increased from 16 to 20, and projectile duration reduced from 10 seconds to 7 seconds. I watched, the speed is such a noticeable difference. Like, it just seems to zoom past people so fast now that it has actually made, and like with the reduction on the area as well, it is significantly less good at actually hitting people and getting like the full value out of the orb now. It's like, I'm not saying this has crippled Moira or anything, but if you played Moira a lot, like, it is quite noticeable, and I hate it, because I obviously I played a lot of Moira. But it's not like, I don't think it's like significantly affected Moira's balance in any way, but it does feel bad if you played Moira. And then last two changes, reduce the height of Reinhardt's hitbox, making it harder to hit him from behind. Cool. Doesn't make much difference, but cool. And Zenyatta, damage amplification on Discord increased from 25% to 30%. Not the change he needs. So, those are the patch notes in brief, and I'm sorry, future me is definitely not going to edit all of those changes onto screen, so I hope you followed along. In brief, I'm largely indifferent to the patch overall, though, because so many of the changes I have, like, no method of analyzing because I didn't play the heroes, right? Like, there are, like, 5 changes in here. That was terrible. There are, like, 5 changes in here where I'm just, like, I have no knowledge of how to evaluate them because I would need to have played the hero more to understand them. The voice wheel stuff is great. I wish there were more things added. Like, I just want there to be more methods of communication like that. Basically, I really want Apex Legends' ping system to be in Overwatch, because Apex Legends still has, bar none, the best pinging system in any video game ever devised. It is absolutely incredible, and every game made from here on out should be seriously looking at Apex Legends. Its method of non-verbal communication specifically, because I do think that it is a truly revolutionary system in terms of non-verbal communication for multiplayer games. But anyway, so they obviously know something's wrong with Zenyatta, but they don't know how to fix it. I don't think 5% on Discord Orb is enough. Now, to be fair, 5% on Discord Orb is really big in relation to other methods of damage amplification. Because if you add 5% damage to Mercy's damage boost, that is significantly less impactful because that is only 5% damage on the one person she's boosting. And using Valkyrie, but you know, she's using her ults are usually pretty sick. Discord Orb is 5% from all sources. So Discord Orb getting 5% is a way bigger change than it would be compared to the other abilities, but it's not going to help Zenyatta. Before anybody asks, by the way, this comes up on stream a lot. Why are you only in Platinum? This is not the account I play on as a main. I know, it's like level fucking 7,000 or something like that. This is the account I used to play with friends, so it is lower than my actual account is, before anybody asks, because I know someone will. You know, so they know something's wrong with Zenyatta, but they clearly don't know how to fix it. Discord Orb's not going to be enough. To be fair, like, Zen's a hard one to fix just because of his nature in the game, where he's so vulnerable to so many things that happen in this game. Like, his vulnerability is a huge issue. I've said what I would do to Zenyatta previously, which is that I would basically buff Transcendence so that when you use it initially, there is this burst that comes off of you that purges all debuffs on people in the area. Just the initial burst. This is not a persistent effect. And this is specifically just so that Zenyatta doesn't get hard countered by Bio Grenade, right? Because as long as Ana is good, Zenyatta will always be worse by extension because her basic ability counters his ultimate, which is terrible. So I want there to be some counterplay in here for the Zenyatta on that end, because currently he has no way of mitigating this. So if he has an initial burst where he can cleanse it, he's got a way to play around Ana, Ana still has a way to play around Transcendence, she just holds her Bio Grenade for longer, right? So I think this creates gameplay on both sides doing this. And then also buff Transcendence's healing just slightly, so that Genji can't kill you in it when using Nanoblade, because he currently can. It's a fairly tight timing, but he can kill you while Nanobladed in Transcendence. I would buff it just slightly so that he can't do that. And then that's it. That's what I would do to Zenyatta for that. I would also strongly consider giving him 50 more health, because Zenyatta's massive vulnerability is a big part of why Zenyatta struggles, especially in lower SRs, where you can't rely on people helping you. I do think he should remain an immobile hero. I think that is fairly integral to his identity, that he is a low mobility hero. But this is also a massive disadvantage in Overwatch when you have no method of self-peel and you are also extremely immobile. So I think that I would strongly consider giving him 50 more health, just to help with this a little bit. To be honest with you, I would probably give a lot of people 50 more health, just because I wish the time to kill in Overwatch was higher than it is currently, which is like 0.5 milliseconds. It's longer than that, but you get the idea. Burst damage in this game is really high. I would prefer if it was less impactful. So I would probably give a lot of people 50 health, given the opportunity. But I think that Zenyatta being so immobile should stay the same. I don't think he should have, like, crowd control or anything like that. So he needs some mitigating factor in here, so I would just give him some extra health to give him a little bit of a buffer in this. Because he's still really easy to hit, right? Like, he's immobile, no self-peel, and he's really easy to hit hitbox-wise. So if you give him 50 more health, it doesn't massively increase his survivability, but it gives him a little bit. It makes him a little bit harder to kill, at least in like a 1v1 flank, where he is currently like usually gets completely washed unless the other person is bad. That's a tangent, because this question was just about what I think about this patch, but that's my thoughts on Zenyatta on the whole. So, you know, I think it is a good patch, just because of the communication wheel stuff, if nothing else. But outside of that, like, you know, none of the changes are huge, so it's not like, I don't have any strong feelings towards it one way or another. So there you go. So that's it for the Discord. Now we're going to go over to the Overwatch University part, and I actually ended up wasting a lot of time on that last question, so we won't do as many as I had expected to. So first up is, how do I deal with aggressive Ashes with permanent Mercy pockets as a DPS? Well, it is generally really hard to kill two people as one person. You know, just the sheer numbers game makes that one difficult. His body was there on my screen in that, I swear. I didn't just wave at nothingness. I looked right at Doomfist, I swear. So one of the easier things to do is just ask one of the tanks to change to Winston or D.Va to help you. Versus Ashe specifically, I would say D.Va is actually better than Winston. Just because you eat the dynamite, you eat the coach gun, and like, it's harder for Ashe to kill D.Va, essentially, than it is for Winston. I actually think D.Va is better versus Ashe than Winston is. Which is not something I think for a lot of situations, but I do think Ashe is actually better for, D.Va is better for Ashe specifically. So, you know, you can ask one of them to help you, because it's hard to 2v1. Other than that, like, you know, you get the usual options, basically, which is change to a flanker, or change to a, sniper, and try to duel the Ashe like that instead, because Ashe can't one-shot a sniper as easily as the sniper can one-shot the Ashe. If she has a Mercy pocketing her, this is easier for her to do, but Widow and Hanzo can just either out-spam her or outrange her. So, you know, you can do that, or you can go with the classic pick a flanker option, right? Which whichever one you choose, really. Sombra, in particular, is pretty good against Ashe, because if you can hack Ashe, like, her Dynamite and Coach Gun are pretty important. So if you hack the Ashe, she is actually significantly weakened in the duel. So Sombra is pretty good versus Ashe, whereas she's not as good versus, like, a Hanzo or a Widowmaker. Ashe's abilities are pretty important. So if you can hack her, she's cool. That's cool. Genji, Tracer, and them, they're all as good as they usually are. Genji does have a particular thing to note, where if you deflect Coach Gun, Ashe is immediately, like, completely gone. Ashe is out of there, because she gets double knockback at that point. Because if you go up and deflect in the Ashe's face, you better be really confident she isn't gonna Coach Gun. Because if she Coach Guns you, she gets the knockback from the activation on Coach Gun, and she also gets the knockback from the Coach Gun bullets that you deflected into her. So she just fucking zooms away from you. So if you play Genji against her, be really careful when you use deflect, because you might just, like, send her to the other side of the map if you're not careful. But, that's what you get, pretty much. If you can take out the Mercy beforehand, that makes it easier, but, it's usually pretty hard to kill Mercy in these situations if the Mercy's paying attention. Like, if the Mercy's just stood behind Ashe, tethered to her, not moving and not paying attention, that's some fucking free real estate right there, brother. But if the Mercy isn't terrible, she's usually pretty hard to kill. You're usually trying to burst the Mercy, the person Mercy's pocketing, to death instead. So, the usual candidates are your best options. Of note, Mei is actually pretty good, because you can spam at her. She can't one-shot you, and you can just, like, if you can bully the tank lines down, then Ashe is significantly more vulnerable at that point. Ashe doesn't bring a lot to, like, assisting a tank line necessarily, so Mei and Reaper are pretty good at kind of just ignoring her. Because they're not super afraid of her because of their high survivability. And if you can bully the tank line down, Ashe becomes significantly less useful, as all snipers tend to when there's no tank in between you and them. So, that's the thing, is that, like, 2v1ing is hard, so asking for help is good, but, that's going to vary a lot. And then after that, you just get the usual options, pretty much. Like, there's nothing inherently special with Ashe outside of, like, Sombra and the Sombra and Genji things. You're pretty much doing the same stuff. So next up is Ana just not as viable in lower ranks? Not really. So the problem is that I actually think that Ana is probably better in lower ranks, asterisks, if you know how to play Ana. Because that's the main issue. If you're in lower ranks, there's a strong probability it's because you're a lower ranked player, right? Ana is very hard to play. Ana is one of the hardest supports to play. So if you're not as good at the game, you're gonna struggle playing Ana, because Ana's hard to play. Ana is the character that, like, if you're getting a video sent to you from somebody and they play support, there is probably like a 70% chance you're getting an Ana video sent to you, right? Like, people struggle with Ana a lot more than other people. I remember there was a point in time, I've mentioned this guy before, one amongst many, doesn't really do that much stuff anymore outside of streaming, but he used to do, like, a lot of the VoD review stuff on YouTube. And I just remember one video he said that, if you're sending an Ana video at this point, don't expect to see that one, because Ana by herself currently makes up more videos than every other hero in the game that I've been sent. And that's been the case for me at various points in time, where every other hero in total combined doesn't equal the amount of Ana videos I have waiting. This is less the case now, but it was, like, really the case earlier on. And it still remains the case that Ana's hard to play, and Ana has every time I look at the subreddit, there's always way more Ana questions than anything else. Ana's just hard to play. So if you're in low ranks, you're gonna struggle more just by virtue of the fact that you're in lower ranks yourself and you're trying to play the support hero, debatably the support hero with the highest learning curve. You could debate between like her and Baptiste, I think, but you know, my personal bias makes me want to say that Baptiste is worse for this, but like Ana is probably the harder hero to play net than Baptiste is. But you could debate on this point, you know. So I think that Ana in lower ranks is better on paper because in lower ranks, the people that are most likely to kill you as Ana are going to be being played by bad people. So you're probably better off because Ana's weakness is always divers and flankers. When you're playing in low SR, people that play divers and flankers in low SR are extremely stupid. They are tremendously idiotic people, and they will do absolutely clownish cartoon shit trying to kill people. So Ana gets a nice buffer in lower SR that her biggest weaknesses are being piloted by people that are bad at the game. The problem is just also that you are probably not as good at the game, which means you're going to struggle. But no, Ana's not less viable in lower ranks as far as I'm concerned. It's just that you're probably not as good at the game, you know. Harsh, I know, but like if you're in bronze, there's likely to be a reason for that. Unfortunately. So, no, I don't think she's less viable in lower ranks. I think she's actually better in lower ranks. And, you know, there is... One of the things, to be fair, one of the points I do see made about this is that, Ana's less useful when her teammates are bad. Because you can't expect them to peel for you, I think this point is negated by the fact the enemy team is worse, but that's one, you know, I've already talked about that. The other commonly cited point is that Ana is less good when her teammates are bad because that means that Nano Boost is going to be worse. I flatly don't think this excuse holds any water, because people can be bad when you nano boost them at all ranks. That's not a low rank specific thing. And as long as you nano boost people at good times, it doesn't matter, right? Like, if you nano boost the Genji has to try quite hard to fuck up when he's using Dragon Blade. If you nano boost the Reinhardt when he's in the enemy team, he has to fuck up quite hard to get no value out of nano boost, right? Like, the good times to nano boost people as Ana are times when it is very hard for people to fuck up. So you're comboing ultimates, or it's just like Reinhardt's in them, and like Reinhardt can't miss. So I don't think the nano boost argument holds any water, unless you don't know how to nano boost people, which is the main issue, I think. But that's my point on the matter. So that's it. And the next question, this is the last question for this league, is why is Masters such a toxic rank? So I can confirm for you that Masters is probably the worst rank for toxicity overall. And if you're in bronze or like plow or whatever, you're going to say, how can that physically be possible for Masters to be the worst place? So the problem is that Masters is the point where people have ego, but they don't actually have enough skill to back it up. Because if you're in Masters or GM, you have a massive ego attached to you at that point, because you're in the two, like, premier rank, well, top 500, right? You're in one of the very limited sample size there. You're in the two reasonably expected premier ranks, right? Masters and GM. GM players are very good at the game. Master players are good at the game, but only slightly better than a diamond player, right? The gulf of skill between a Masters player and a GM player is huge. It's fucking cataclysmic in size, right? This tends to be the way with things, where there is a massive discrepancy in the highest ranks, where the people in the lowest of the high ranks compared to the highest of the high ranks, it's like the gap between those 2 points is almost as big as Masters and the bottom. It's incredible. This is the case in a lot of things. I remember seeing this clip of a chess tournament between a bunch of grandmasters, and the world grandmaster, through the first 7 turns of the match against this other grandmaster, like, legitimately did nothing for those 7 turns, and he still won within 10 turns after that. Like, even though both of these people are in grandmasters, right? The skill difference between the two of them is still unbelievably huge. This tends to, unlike chess is obviously a far more nuanced game than Overwatch is, right? But this holds true in a lot of things, where the difference is in the high ranks and the low ranks. The high ranks and the low ranks is still massive. So the thing is that the people, when they get into masters, people mid and below, they have the ego of I'm in masters, but they don't actually have the skill to consistently perform well in this rank, because they're playing against people that are very good. And quite frequently when you're in masters, you're going to be playing against some grandmasters players with some amount of regularity. And I can tell you, every time I had to play against a grandmaster in masters, I got fucking dominated. I got absolutely trashed by them. Because, like, when I first got into masters, and for a very long time I was playing Reinhardt, if I had to play against a grandmaster's Reinhardt, it was not even close. It was not even remotely close. He would always absolutely dunk on me. After that, I got there playing people like Moira, so, you know, a less dramatic difference if the other Moira is better than me, right? But, like, yeah, I got absolutely fucking trashed every time I had to play against the Grandmaster Reinhardt, which only happened a few times, but it was never even remotely close. So, like, I think that's the main issue with Masters. It's just that, like, people get in there, and then they have to face the very harsh reality of just because they got to Masters doesn't mean they're actually that good at the game yet, compared to the people who are in their rank and just above them, right? Because, like, Masters and Grandmasters is a very small portion of the player base, and, like, you get to know people really well in Masters. I still remember this man to the day. I remember his name, I remember every interaction I had with him, because they were just that fucking ridiculous. I won't tell you the guy's name, obviously, but I played with him once, and I was playing Moira. This was after I'd changed from tank to support as being my main role. And I was playing Moira, and he was playing Genji, and he wanted me to change to Mercy so that I would pocket him. I would never pocket a Genji regardless, but, you know, he wanted me to pocket him as Mercy. And I did not do this. I continued to play Moira, who is also the hero I'm way better at, just, you know, but for reference. But I refused to do this, and so he threw the game. And, like, not even remotely hiding it, openly announced he was going to throw the game, unless I changed to pocket him, which of course made me want to change to pocket him even less. Which is why that's not a very good tactic to employ in getting people to do what you want them to do. So he openly admitted to this, and every time I played with him after that point, yeah, he threw the game. He remembered me, and every time I played with him, he threw the game. Just openly as well, like, not hiding it. At the start of the game, he would very upfront say in the chat, oh, it's you again. Guess I'm going to throw this game, and he would throw the game. And it would not be subtle. He would announce that he was doing this. He never got banned. You know, I continued to see him for months after this interaction. For the record, he never once beat me when he was on the other team. Just so you know, I never lost to him when he was on the enemy team. But yeah, like, you know, that's the kind of people you deal with in Masters. This guy's obviously got a fucking ridiculous ego, hasn't he? And he doesn't have the skill to back it up. But he's got the ego, and this is easily the most toxic person I've interacted with in this game, just because of the sheer extended period it happened over, that being months. But, you know, that's the kind of people you interact with in Masters. People with massive egos and no skill. So, well, not no skill, but you get the idea. Not enough skill to actually hack it in the rank unless they get carried. Because obviously this is a DPS player that only wins if his support players invest a serious amount of resources into keeping him alive. But anyway, so yeah. That's the reason Masters is bad. Ego, but no skill. So, you know, we've obviously got to wait for this game to finish now, so that, you know, you can leave knowing whether or not I won or lost, even though it said when I clicked on this game. So, I don't typically play Mercy that often, you know, as you may assume. I'm not really that kind of person, by and large. It's just that I think the Dragoon skin is really good. Basically, is what I've got going on. I think it's a really good skin. That was bad. Yeah, that was bad. Not thinking about McCree when I'm... Not thinking about Deadeye when I'm using Valkyrie, so I'm just hanging out in the sky. Yeah, you gotta think about McCree when you're using Valkyrie. You can't just hang out in the sky. I just think the Dragoon skin's really good, so I like using it. I really like the claws. Like when Mercy's rezzing someone, I really like the claws on the hand. I think it looks sick. I don't really like how much it spins. I think it's a little distracting. But I think it's a really good skin. I like it. All of my friends think it's a bad skin, so you know, that's terrible. Two of them are moderators, so please do go and bully them for thinking it's a bad skin, because they're wrong. Obviously, this is a good skin. It's not the color I would have chosen for a dragon, but also at the same time, if you came to the colorblind person and asked them to choose the color for your skin, I would question your motives. You know, I would question why you had decided to do that. So yeah, oh. Genji's, yeah, I remember that point very vividly, because I'm like, oh god, Reaper's right here, and the only people I can go to get away from him are next to the fucking Nano Blade. So I was like, life is difficult sometimes, isn't it? I remember that feeling really well. It was not a very pleasant one. Which, you know, that's playing Mercy though, isn't it? You know, it's frequently full of sadness. So, I'm about to kill myself right here, and the reason I did this was I didn't respect Sombra enough, and I didn't think she'd actually touch it. So I went in. And Hammond got in there anyway, so I didn't even need to. I just didn't respect the Sombra player, because I had only just realized we had a Sombra player about 30 seconds prior when she used Emp that one time. So I just didn't respect her as a person, which is how a lot of my decision-making in this video game goes, to be honest with you. Wouldn't it be sick if, and I don't trust him. So I'm playing Lucio, so I didn't want to keep spinning, so my choice was to just, like, squat up here and hope. But Roadhog got me. Life is hard, isn't it? As you might have noticed, I don't play Lucio because the rollout was terrible, right? But, you know, anyway, so there you go. So thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I start streaming on Twitch Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, 8 PM EST to 11 EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make your way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.